Now we're at part 2 of chapter 4. Now the endomembrane system is many components of the cell. It's the organelles form this endomembrane system in a cell, and they're interconnected throughout the cell. So we're going to be looking at this endomembrane system and the pieces of it. The endoplasmic reticulum is one of the main manufacturing areas in a cell. It is responsible for making proteins and lipids and maybe some other molecules too. And there is both smooth and rough endoplasmic reticulum. The smooth endoplasmic reticulum on the right is responsible for the manufacturing of lipids. The rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes dotting it, and that's why it has that dotted appearance. And you can see that it's continuous with the nuclear envelope. So anything exiting from the nuclear envelope may go right into the endoplasmic reticulum. So the rough is due to the ribosomes, and they're what make protein. After the endoplasmic reticulum makes a molecule, a protein molecule, it has to carry it to where it needs to go and get it ready to be exiting out of the cell. So it actually gets packaged into a vesicle, a transport vesicle. You can sort of think of them as little vehicles that carry the material that was produced. Now the smooth ER does not have ribosomes, and it is what's responsible for lipids, which of course includes steroids. So here's a picture of the ribosome. So you see at number 1 at the bottom, there is a ribosome, and you're looking at the rough ER and the inside of it because it has a bunch of channels. And it's inside those channels that the proteins or polypeptides get put together into amino acids and into proteins. So the proteins are modified but may need more work. It depends on what it's making. So it buds off the endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum, as you see at number 3, it actually is going to snip off and turn into that transport vesicle. And that is leaving the endoplasmic reticulum and carrying the protein that was manufactured there. Now, another piece of the endoplasmic reticulum is the Golgi apparatus, and it works with the endoplasmic reticulum. And if you look at the picture on the bottom, it sort of looks like a bunch of flat pancakes, but it is often the final distribution manufacturing center, so to say. It may receive material from the endoplasmic reticulum, and inside it has channels. You can see on the right they have sort of expanded it, and there's a transport vesicle from the rough ER at the very top, and the Golgi apparatus will accept the protein and in turn do some manufacturing inside and also create a transport vesicle. And it may exit the material outside of the cell, depending on what was made. So a lysosome is another type of sac found in the cell. It has digestive enzymes, and these enzymes could break down large molecules. Some large molecules will enter the cell and need to be broken down a little more. They may be used by the cell, they may not. Enzymes can be inside a lysosome to break down the large molecules, and they have many functions. They could be called food vacuoles. These vacuoles, again, are very similar to vesicles. because it can fuse with the lysosome and in turn digest or help digest the food due to the enzymes.
Like secretory proteins and some other proteins, proteins destined for lysosomes are made on ribosomes bound to the rough ER and moved through the endomembrane system. In this case, the lysosomal protein-containing vesicle that buds from the Golgi apparatus is the lysosome itself.
So you can see by that picture how it's traveled. And that's how things work inside a cell. It's a very organized. This picture is just sort of a continuation of what you saw in the video. So you can look at the picture later if you want, but it shows the vesicle that has budded off and has digestive enzymes in it. So vacuoles are sacs, and they bud from a couple of organelles, the endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi bodies, and also the plasma membrane. Now in plants, there's another vacuole. It's only in plants. It's called the central vacuole, and it takes up a large section of the inside of the plant, and it is there to store nutrients. It can absorb water, and it may contain some pigments or poisons. Now I'm going to show a picture of the cytoplasmic streaming. I'm not going to do the other one because you can see that online. So here you can see the central vacuole is in the very center where the white is. It takes up a large area inside the plant cells. This is the Elodea leaf, and you will be looking at this underneath the microscope, and you may see the cytoplasmic streaming. Those little green balls, those are chloroplasts, which are responsible for photosynthesis. So hopefully this slide will help you see what you need when you're looking at the microscope. So the endomembrane system interconnects all of those listed. And the animation I will leave to you to review in the lecture online. And this picture is just pretty much showing what we've been discussing. Here's the rough ER. The transport vesicle goes to the Golgi apparatus, and the Golgi apparatus buds off a transport vesicle that in turn will go to the cell membrane, and some of it will be secreted from the cell. Some may stay inside the cell. It all depends on what the product was. Now I mentioned chloroplasts before, and we're going to include mitochondria because both of these are involved with energy conversion, production, so that the cells stay alive. Cells need energy. They're sort of like batteries or your iPods. If your iPod does not have energy, which is the battery, it dies, doesn't work, so you have to charge it. So the cell is the same way. Without energy, like a battery, it can't work. So these two sections, these two organelles, are very important for this. Now in plants, there are chloroplasts, and they perform photosynthesis, which is the sun shines on the plant. The sun is light energy, and it gets converted in the chloroplast to chemical energy of sugar, and that is called photosynthesis. Now mitochondria are what produces ATP in the eukaryotic cells, and they're in almost all, so they're in plant cells too. The thing about mitochondria and chloroplasts that is very fascinating is that they contain their own DNA, and it's called mitochondrial DNA, and it was believed that millions of years ago, as life was forming, that a bacteria set up housing inside another cell. That bacteria had its own DNA. It eventually became a part of the cell, and in turn, it became the mitochondria, or the energy producer of the cell. So here is the mitochondrion. They're blowing it up so you can see the inside. The mitochondria, you don't need to know the inner parts of the cell, but they are there and visible, so you can see that it's got sacs and passageways. And here it's showing how the energy is produced, which is a complex cycle called the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain, which in turn creates ATP, which is our source of energy. As it produces the ATP, it releases CO2. So here is the picture of the mitochondrion. Now, the cytoskeleton. It is sort of like a skeleton inside the cell, but it's actually, instead of big bones like we have, a network of fibers. And there are a couple of different types and shapes and sizes of these fibers, but they're very important to the support of the cell and helping to maintain its shape. And it also allows for like a system of highways inside the cells so that things, vacuoles, can travel along it. It is very fascinating, and I do have some videos that show the inside working that's going on. Now, microtubules are the ones that are like the highways. They guide the movement of organelles and chromosomes, and you will see them in mitosis. So at the top you can see the microtubules are pretty visible in that cytoskeleton. And on the right is microtubules are important for movement. So cilia and flagella are in human cells. Flagella are long with a tail. The only example in the body is sperm. Cilia are like little hairs that are on the outside of some cells, not every cell, and they help sweep material or movement of things that are inside the organs. And they actually have a back and forth type of motion, but they are based on the cytoskeleton. So here you can see, this isn't sperm, but this is sort of like what sperm look like. This flagella is long, and you can see it whipping back and forth. And it's all part of the cytoskeleton. So here is a human sperm on the left, and here's a protist, and you can see the cilia on it. And then the pink one on the lower right, that's inside us. It lines our respiratory tract, and it is responsible for helping remove some bacteria and things that we breathe in. As it sweeps back and forth, it collects material,